Chapter 31 Violence and Levels. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The music box Neville gave me is still in use. The music box spun to make beautiful music, which was given to John by Neville at Christmas. Knowing that Lu Wei likes music, John made a special trip to the dormitory to get the things. The music box is flying. After entering the trap, John used the flying charm to bring the music box back. By the way, this was a gift from Neville, and John didn't want to be spoiled by Lu Wei after he woke up. Ding, trigger the challenge task, clear the secret room where the magic stone is located, get any point +2, blessing, night. Upon entering this room, John triggers a challenge quest, free-falling through the hatch panel. John saw something wriggling like a tentacle underneath. Reducto. White light shot through the tentacles, and John cast a levitation charm on himself before landing, gently falling. John looked up, the shattered tentacles wriggled to fill up the hole, and he carefully identified it, recognizing that it was a devil's net. Is this because you are afraid of people falling to your death? Touching his chin, John felt that the one who could set up such a checkpoint was probably the kind Professor Sprout. It is estimated that Professor Sprout did not expect that someone would use such a violent method to break through. The devil's net is a plant that likes dampness and darkness. Below the devil's net is a stone corridor, and this is the only way. Walking along the corridor for a while, John heard rustling and tinkling sounds. It sounded like a swarm of bugs flapping their wings. At the end of the corridor was a brightly lit room with a high vaulted ceiling, and countless birds, shining like jewels, fluttered around the room. It was a group of keys with wings. On the other side of the room was a heavy wooden door with a keyhole on it. John looked thoughtfully at the broomstick beside him, and said, "This level should be about finding the matching key." Looking at the densely packed keys, John felt that Harry would probably come out when he found them. That being the case, let's change the method. I saw John took off the big sword on his back and came to the wooden door. He tried to use the unlocking spell, but it obviously didn't work. In that case, just break it open. Holding the sword in both hands, John slashed at the wooden door. This big sword was not light in weight, and with the proficiency of the big sword, John chopped with chips flying with one sword. When he struck the 10th time, the wooden door finally couldn't hold it and fell to the ground. Carrying the big sword on his shoulder, John stepped into the wooden door. The second room was pitch black, and John blinked, feeling a little uncomfortable going from light to darkness. Stepping inside, the room is filled with light, brightly lit up the room. It's a giant chessboard. John stood on the side at this time and looked around. There were black and white chess pieces on the chessboard. Judging from the style, it seems to be the same thing as wizard chess, and behind the white chess is a wooden door. Ron? At this time, he noticed a red-haired figure lying outside the chessboard. John's heart sank. Couldn't something happen? After calling a few times without hearing a response, John wanted to walk over, but the white pawns on the opposite chessboard pulled out their weapons and stood in front of them. With a gloomy expression, John said coldly, "Either get out of the way, or I'll smash you to pieces before going over." Obviously White didn't want to give way, and John was not polite, and the wand started to attack directly. Reducto. The soldiers at the front were crushed by the white light, which stabbed a hornet's nest. The white pieces moved out one after another, and John cast an illusion spell on himself, disappearing invisible in front of the white pieces. The vigilant white chess piece didn't understand the situation. The big sword rubbed sparks on his body and smashed another chess piece. With the wand in the left hand and the great sword in the right, John blended into the darkness and continued to slaughter the white chess pieces. The shattered white piece wanted to recover, and John's face turned cold. This superb transformation technique is probably a checkpoint set by Professor McGonagall. Recovery. Mix you all together to see how to recover. With a wave of the magic wand, all the broken white pieces floated up and gathered together. John looked at King Bai, and it seemed that this was the core. Jumping up and twisting his waist, he turned around and smashed Huashan with a force to separate King Bai from the top of his head. White stopped moving. John looked at the deformed sword and frowned. This sword is still not good enough. After solving the chess pieces, he came to Ron. After shaking Ron for a while, he finally woke up. "Ron, are you okay?" Ron was also a little dazed. He only remembered that he chose to sacrifice himself to allow Harry to take down the White King, and then he couldn't remember because he was knocked out. Hearing the sound, he opened his eyes, saw nothing in front of him, and screamed in fright. "It's me, Ron, are you all right?" John undoes the illusion spell and sends concern to Ron. "It's okay, just a little dizzy, John, why are you here?" Realizing something was wrong, Ron opened his mouth and looked at John. John shrugged and said easily, "Hagrid is worried that something will happen to you, so let me take a look." "Well, the reason is barely passable." Ron felt dizzy, stood up and shook a few times and almost fell down. Just as John was considering whether to send Ron back first, Hermione came out from another door. "Ron!" Hermione yelled anxiously, and saw John standing next to Ron. She was stunned for a while. "Hermione, where's Harry?" "Harry is going to the last level. Why are you here, John?" So John told the reason again, looking at a door over there. Seeing his movements, Hermione said, "Harry has already passed, and the antidote for the 5th level has been used up." The antidote was gone. No matter how worried Hermione was, it would be useless. She could only go to see if Dumbledore could be found back. Flame. John subconsciously touched his pocket, which contained several bottles of potions. Coincidentally not, he happened to have a bottle of fireproof potion in his pocket. Coincidentally, he found this thing in power potion and it needed to be refined with dragon's blood. He only had one bottle, just enough to pass by. "Then you go out first according to the plan, and I will help Harry." After all, John ignored Hermione's surprise and went in through the door behind the white chess piece. As soon as he entered, John smelled a foul smell. He is too familiar with this smell. After all, he has dealt with a big guy with this smell before. It's just that this time the smell is even more smoky, and John's eyes were so hot that tears flowed down his eyes. In his dim eyesight, he saw a fallen troll. This giant monster was even bigger than the last one. The giant monster lying on the ground had a huge lump on its head, and it seemed that it had fainted for a while. Just when John thought he didn't need to fight the troll anymore, the troll who fell to the ground opened his eyes inappropriately. Ding! Solved the second giant monster. Any point +1, blessing, giant monster killer. Troll buster. The damage to giant creatures is greatly increased, and the fear of giant creatures is increased. A task was triggered, and John narrowed his eyes. Seeing this huge monster waking up, John put a phantom spell on himself. Before the troll woke up, he came behind the troll. Apparently the lump was telling him where the troll was weak. John aimed at the head, and hit the body with a full blow. As soon as the poor troll got up, he was sent flying again. This time, it was even worse. A huge gap was blown out of his head, and blood continued to flow out of it. Soon it converged into a stream on the ground. At the same time, the system sent a reminder that the task was completed. His simple and rude way of passing the level probably even Dumbledore could not have imagined. When he reached the last door, John stretched out his hand and pushed it open. A purple flame appeared in front of him blocking the way, and John took out the fireproof potion and prepared to drink it. Suddenly he stopped, his eyes wandering, and he summoned the panel. Magic power, level 3, 105 out of 1500. 342323332.74. 111, blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision, academic master, pilot, long distance running, sword dance, night devil, troll buster. My disillusionment charm failed in front of Dumbledore last time, so I shouldn't be careless this time. Having made up his mind, John set his sights on the disillusionment charm, and added any point he had just obtained to it. The number of illusion spell jumps and becomes level 4. Chapter 32 Voldemort and the Backstab. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Satisfied that he had done everything, John reimposed a disillusionment spell on himself. Level 4 of the disillusionment curse is not inferior to the Aurors of the Ministry of Magic. Taking out the fireproof potion and opening his mouth to drink it, John walked into the fire. Like drinking ice water, the fireproof potion penetrated into his whole body at once. The flames licked his body, but there was no burning sensation at all. John continued to move forward along the flame, past the purple flame and then reached the black flame. He could feel the fireproof potion on his body disappearing quickly, so he quickened his pace and left the black flame before the effect disappeared. In front of him was the last room. At the same time, 2 people were already inside. John's body tensed up when he saw the tall man. It's Quirrell, and it was Harry who was held hostage by Quirrell in front of the mirror. What's the matter with this mirror? What is its function? Help me, master. Use that boy, use that boy. Potter, come here. Quirrell seemed to be talking to himself and seemed to be asking. John walked out of the flames, his steps were light and slow, he knew it was not a good time, Voldemort hadn't appeared yet, so he couldn't make a move. What made John even more curious was how Quirrell survived. I have to say that this person's life is just like Xiaoqiang's. The breath on his body was even more sluggish. And a strong rancid smell emanated from his body. It was as if what was in front of him was not a living person, but a corpse. Harry was hijacked by Quirrell and came to the mirror. At this moment, Harry thought a lot. He didn't expect that Snape, who he thought was the bad guy, was actually protecting him, and the victim he thought, Quirrell, was the real bad guy. He wants to protect the Philosopher's Stone, but he doesn't know what to do now. Quirrell is aggressive, and Harry stands in front of the mirror. Harry in the mirror blinked at him and put the Philosopher's Stone in his pocket. Only Harry knows all this, and the others don't know even if Quirrell is right next to him. Harry started talking nonsense with his eyes open. I saw myself shaking Dumbledore's hand. Fender won the House Cup. Quirrell was furious at not getting what he wanted. Go away. Quirrell pushed Harry away, swearing and wandering in front of the mirror. Harry stepped back, with the Philosopher's Stone in his pocket, and wanted to take advantage of it to escape, but just before he walked 5 steps, he heard Quirrell's voice when he was asking and answering himself. He's lying. But when Quirrell realized that he had been tricked, he became even more angry. He was already weak because he didn't drink the blood of the unicorn. If Voldemort had no other way to continue his life, he would have died by now. For this reason, he hated Harry so much. Taking out his wand, Quirrell cast a spell at Harry. Harry flew out and fell to the ground. Quirrell's face was crazy, and he said sharply, "Hand over the Philosopher's Stone." Harry gritted his teeth and said nothing. "Let me talk to him. You are useless, Quirinus." The shrill voice spoke again. "No. Master, I can definitely get the Philosopher's Stone for you." Now Quirrell panicked completely, and he stammered to ask his master to give him another chance, but Voldemort no longer trusted this subordinate and forcibly took his body away, so weak that Quirrell couldn't beat Voldemort at all. Under Harry's horrified gaze, Quirrell's body turned over in a strange posture. He grasped the head with both hands and twisted it hard like a big rubber ball. The disgusting smell became stronger. And the head wrapped in the scarf turned in front of him, and Quirrell untied it bit by bit. Behind that head, there was actually a human face. Harry had never seen such a hideous and horrifying face, like chalk, with glowing red eyes and 2 snake-like nostrils underneath. Quirrell said frightened and weakly, "Master, give me a chance." A disgusted expression appeared on Voldemort's face, and Quirrell was breathless. The current body has been completely controlled by Voldemort. Looking at the culprit who made him what he is today, he whispered as if whispering beside him, "Harry Potter." Harry wanted to back away, but his legs seemed to be frozen, and the wound on his forehead was stabbing. "Look what I've become." There was malice in Voldemort's tone. He hated too much. The Dark Lord, who was supposed to rule the magic world, now has only shadows and steam left. He is a wandering soul, without a body. He can only board on those weak animals, but there are some people who would be willing to let him into the body, and Quirrell is one of them. When I get the elixir, I'll be able to recreate my own body. Voldemort could already see how much panic his regaining his body would throw the world into, and he felt he had everything under control. Dumbledore was sent to the Ministry of Magic, and now there is no one who can stop Voldemort. He held his wand, his eyes narrowed dangerously. "Now, Harry, why don't you give me the Philosopher's Stone in your pocket?" He is not the idiot that Quirrell is. In his heyday he was a wizard who could be on par with Dumbledore. Naturally, this little trick couldn't be hidden from his eyes. Raising his wand across, the invisible knife cut open Harry's pocket. A bright red stone fell from his pocket, and Harry tried to retrieve it, but was tied up by Voldemort's deformed belt. When Voldemort picked up the thing he was thinking about, he let out a strange smile, looking at Harry, the guy he hated, stepping on the throne of the great Dark Lord, a hypocritical liar. He wanted to torture this child, this being called the savior by the world. "Look at you, kid. Your parents were very brave back then. I have always admired courage. I killed your father first, but he would rather die than surrender, and fought bravely with me. Your mother doesn't need to die, but she will protect you with all her life." What a stupid way. Harry only felt the scar on his forehead hurt more, and memories of his childhood seemed to flash back in his mind, that green light, and the suffocating laughter. "No, Voldemort, I'll beat you," he yelled. Voldemort sneered, and poked Harry's scar with his wand. "Look, this scar, the lie of the savior, do you really regard yourself as the savior?" That the wand moved across the scar, making Harry howl in pain. Voldemort's smile gradually twisted, and he also felt that his body was dying quickly, losing the soul of its original owner. Quirrell's body is turning into a corpse. Voldemort raised the Philosopher's Stone over his head, and the glow from the bright red stone raised his wand to finish Harry off. Harry's breathing became short of breath, and his eyes were fixed on Voldemort. Was he really going to die like this? "Son, is the magic left by your mother still there?" Before doing it, Voldemort thought of the scene 12 years ago and hesitated. He reached out and touched Harry's body, and this frail body quickly raised blisters. With that magical presence, Voldemort could not harm Harry. This made him very unhappy. Voldemort regretted Quirrell's premature death. The Philosopher's Stone was in his hand, and he knew he should leave, and take the Philosopher's Stone before Dumbledore came back. "Don't go!" Harry shouted angrily, but to no avail. Voldemort was walking towards the door step by step right in front of his eyes. Harry growled, feeling powerless inside. Just when Voldemort was about to leave, John, who had been hiding all the time, made a move. Voldemort was within arm's length of John. At this distance, John attacked decisively. The big sword waved a piece of silver light. He backstabs. Chapter 33 The Academy Cup in Gryffindor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was too late when Voldemort found out. John's sword slashed towards his hand holding the Philosopher's Stone without hesitation. The flying arm didn't have much blood, but shriveled quickly. "Come out!" Voldemort swung his wand with his remaining hand, and a green light shot towards John. John's prepared side roll dodges the next forward sprint. The big sword in his hand swung like a windmill, and chopped off Voldemort's other hand. With his wand drawn, John delivered the final blow, aiming at Voldemort's chest. The wand shot out a dazzling white light. Reducto. Voldemort's frail body shattered at this moment, and John sat down on his buttocks. Fortunately, his current state is not as good as that of the Forbidden Forest. John said is extremely chic, but it actually consumes a lot of mind, especially when he hid from the green light. He knew he had made a mistake. If Voldemort's body had been better, if Voldemort hadn't let down his vigilance because he had the chance to win, that blow just now would have been enough to kill him. Fortunately, John's many days of training made him escape instinctively. After sitting for a while, John looked at the struggling Harry. Voldemort is dead, but magic is still there. He went to pick up the Sorcerer's Stone. From Harry's point of view, Voldemort was like fighting a ghost. His arms were cut off in just a moment, and then his body exploded. He was still in doubt when he saw the Sorcerer's Stone floating up. "Is that you, Professor Dumbledore?" Harry looked expectantly at the location of the Philosopher's Stone. John was about to speak, when the dead Voldemort condensed into a puff of black smoke and flew towards Harry with a hideous face. "Stop!" Without thinking, John threw his weapon at the black smoke to stop it, but this black smoke was not real. The flying sword passed through the black smoke, and the black smoke passed through Harry. Harry screamed again, his mind went blank, and he lost consciousness. The black smoke had cleared when John came to him. He called Harry's name several times, but there was no response. "It won't hang up, will it?" Looking at Harry in disbelief, John slapped the savior in the face several times. Seeing that there was no response, he took out a lot of potions and prepared to try them one by one. "I think Harry Potter is just overly frightened." A mellow and old voice sounded. John looked up, and Dumbledore appeared here. He looked like he had just come back from outside. "John Wick, I think you can lift the disillusionment charm." After being reminded, John remembered that he was still invisible. After the release, he revealed his figure, scratched his head in embarrassment and said, "Professor Dumbledore." Dumbledore said with relief in his eyes, "It seems that you have chosen the right path, and you have not been blinded by power." There was a sudden look in John's eyes, and it turned out that the old man knew what he and Quirrell had learned. "It seems that all of this is under the control of the other party. Maybe he didn't leave the school at all, but he was a bit unnecessary," he said respectfully. "It's all well taught by the school." In fact, John didn't know that Dumbledore also rushed back. it was not long ago that he knew that someone had entered the Sorcerer's Stone. If John hadn't come in time, Voldemort would have succeeded. Dumbledore picked Harry up, and the flames dissipated with a wave of his hand. Let's just take Harry to the school hospital. Poor Harry wonders if he'll make it to the Quidditch match against Ravenclaw. John nodded, and just as he was leaving, he blinked, seemingly still holding the Philosopher's Stone in his hand. Glancing at Dumbledore as if he didn't notice, John hesitated for a while before asking, "Professor, what about the Philosopher's Stone?" Dumbledore stopped and said with a smile on his face, "I'm glad you will be an honest boy. Remember our agreement. I don't think my old friend Nicole Flamel would mind if his Philosopher's Stone was some little wizard used it for a while." Nico Flamel. John stopped in surprise, staring blankly like a niffler who had lost money. 6 month 9 day, 3 days have passed since the incident, and John's mood still hasn't calmed down. Mix dragon's blood with wetland soil, and scrape some powder off the horns with a silver rubbing knife. The bright red stone was placed on the table, and John was refining amulets with dragon blood and some materials. Beneath his careful carving, a medallion of stars encircling the wand gradually emerged. John took out a pen barrel made of snowy owl feathers with a silver tip. Engraving is performed on it, and runes are engraved on it. The last step. After wiping off his sweat, John put pieces of badges into the crucible to soak, throw the magic stone in and stir for a while. The water in the pot turns red and then black again. Finally, the water in the cauldron became clear, and John took out the badge and the Philosopher's Stone inside. The badge looks like a river of stars. He wears it on his chest. There are 3 spells on it that can resist 3 damages. There are also 6 vacant positions for filling magic in the future. The badges can sense each other. He made 9 in total, and John put away the other 8. Looking at the larger crucible beside the others, John opened a gap in the crucible, and the melted silver water in it was almost full. Throwing in the fire dragon blood and the remaining horn of the unicorn one after another, John closed it and waited until it was completely melted. He poured the silver water into the mold that had been prepared, and the sound of sizzling kept ringing. After it was completely cooled, John knocked open the mold, and a silver long sword appeared inside. Throw the cooled sword back into the cauldron. Throwing the Philosopher's Stone in at the same time, John nervously watched the occasional changes in the cauldron. "I sold everything I could to get this mithril. Don't fail." Under the extremely nervous gaze, the changes in the crucible stopped. He opened the cauldron with full expectation, but the situation inside made his face freeze. Failed. The sword in the crucible turned golden, which is the effect of the magic stone turning everything into gold. But John doesn't want to turn stone into gold. He wants to improve the quality of this sword. With a look of disappointment on his face, John sighed and said, "Even with the Sorcerer's Stone, it is still too difficult to refine the sword of Gryffindor." Taking out the golden sword, John thought he could sell it for some money. Looking at the time, it was already the year-end banquet. John had no choice but to put his things away, put the Philosopher's Stone in his pocket, and walked out of the room of requirement. Very lively today, in the auditorium. Harry came out of the school hospital, but he was a little depressed after learning that he lost the game against Ravenclaw due to his absence. The green and silver of Slytherin adorn the great hall, where they have won the House Cup 7 times in a row. John sat in the seat of Slytherin, glanced at Malfoy's airy appearance, and then looked at Gryffindor, who was 160 points lower than Slytherin. If it weren't for Malfoy, it really might be who won. Dumbledore spoke on it, and when Slytherin number 1 was mentioned, Slytherin burst into thunderous cheers and stomps, and John contributed a share. Yeah, well done, Slytherin." Dumbledore nodded in agreement, and just when everyone thought he was going to declare victory, he changed his subject. However, several recent events must also be taken into account. The auditorium fell silent. Slytherin felt something was wrong, and Malfoy's smile faded. Dumbledore cleared his throat. "I still have the last points to allocate. Let me see. Right. First, Mr. Ron Weasley. He won the best game of chess at Hogwarts in many years, for which I award Gryffindor House 50 points. Secondly, Miss Hermione Granger. For her calm logical reasoning in the face of the fire, I want to reward Gryffindor House with 50 points. Thirdly, Harry Potter. He has shown fearless courage and extraordinary courage. For this, I will also reward Gryffindor College with 60 points. Reverse, shocking reversal. Gryffindor, who was originally lagging behind, suddenly tied with Slytherin. The contribution of the three little ones made Hogwarts roar with cheers. Dumbledore raised a hand for silence and said with a smile, "There are many types of courage. We need superhuman courage to deal with our enemies, but it also takes a lot of courage to stand our ground in front of our friends. Therefore, I would like to reward Mr. Neville Longbottom with 10 points. Explosion, total explosion." Slytherin shouted shady, while the other branches celebrated as if Hogwarts was going to be overthrown. Malfoy had already expressed his displeasure by knocking on the table with a goblet, and everyone in the Slytherins looked gloomy. Gryffindor's score came first, and everyone except Slytherin seemed to be satisfied with the result. John couldn't help complaining, "Gryffindor, you really have a lot of points. Just add it, right?" As if the matter was about to be settled, John couldn't help shaking his head pitifully when he saw the dean's stiff smile. "Quiet, everyone, please be quiet." Dumbledore spoke again, but instead of announcing the result, he looked at John. "Finally, Mr. John Wick." Chapter 34 Reversal and Homecoming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mr. John Wick. Slytherin was ready to accept this account in humiliation, but he didn't expect that there would be a reversal. The beautiful blonde girl Daphne was about to slander Dumbledore with Pansy, but she choked back when she heard this. Malfoy almost smashed the glass on Crabbe's head, and looked at John in disbelief. Dumbledore continued, "Mr. John Wick, with his keen intuition and careful observation, saw through the identity of that person, saved the unicorn in the Forbidden Forest, and rescued Harry Potter at his own risk. And Draco Malfoy. He took the risk to save Harry Potter, who was in danger, defeated that man, and defended Hogwarts. The spirit of sacrificing one's life for a friend is moving. For this, I want to reward Slytherin, plus 80 points. Reversed. John Wick is the hero of Slytherin at this moment, which is different from the hustle and bustle just now. The students from the other three courtyards stared blankly at John, as if for the first time they recognized this thorn in the beginning of the school fight. More people focused on defeating that person who couldn't even say his name was defeated by a little wizard. This is the second defeat since the birth of Harry Potter. Awesome! Daphne immediately cheered, and then the entire Slytherin fell into a carnival. John was held by Malfoy's shoulders, and the goblet kept shaking in his hand, spilling a piece of pumpkin juice. Goyle and Crabbe took the initiative, hoisted John, and the Slytherin table seemed to celebrate heroes. No one was stupid enough to bring up the fact that John was a mudblood. They already approved of the Slytherin. John took the pumpkin juice from Daphne, and he held up his glass under the gaze of Slyther Woods. Respect, eternal glory. Respect, eternal glory. Slytherin defended the 7th consecutive championship and managed to become the 8th consecutive champion. They will break Hogwarts' record. Dumbledore sat down and clapped the backs of his hands, and Snape's stiff smile brightened visibly. Surrounded by green and silver, other colleges also began to participate in the year-end banquet celebration. Among the three little ones, Ron scratched his face and said, "I don't know why, but I don't feel uncomfortable losing to John." Hermione didn't have much resistance, and although Slytherin had Malfoy's annoying guy, there were also John's own friends. She just worked hard for a school year, but she still didn't surpass John. After Harry knew that it was John who saved him, he didn't resist any more, but just looked at Malfoy's complacent look with some displeasure. Slytherin was just lucky to have John, otherwise Gryffindor would definitely win. John drank pumpkin juice for the first time, and these little wizards probably regarded pumpkin juice as wine. He saw the Weasley twins sneaking into the Slytherin table, so John decisively declined Malfoy's invitation for a drink. Sure enough, after this time, Slytherin's bathroom was full. The Weasley twins added a potion to their pumpkin juice, leaving Hogwarts with some baby snakes with limp legs. Malfoy vowed to kill the drugged bastard, and it was hard for John to say that the Weasley twins did it. On the train home, John touched his pocket. Dumbledore didn't say that means I can take it away. John felt a little guilty. This is the Philosopher's Stone, a treasure that many people can't get. Now that he has taken it away, he still wants to take it home. Seeing that Dumbledore didn't come to him, John felt that the other party must have acquiesced in taking him away. He said goodbye to his classmates, and Ron invited John to his house next time. Hermione was a little disappointed. The results came out, she was number 2. Number 1 fell on John's head, which John already knew because he was prompted by the system. Shuaba 2.0 succeeded. Harry was a little disappointed that he was going back to the Dursleys again. Seeing him like this, John thought for a while and said, "My house is not far away. If you want to come and play, you are always welcome." Harry thought so too. He lived in number 4 John's house in number 6, thinking of this, he immediately felt better. Neville was carrying the cage that John had given him. Apart from a few accidental misplacements of the cage was still very practical. Ding, as soon as the Hogwarts stage mission is completed, the mission reward will be obtained, magic blood +1, any point +2, the moment the train started, a system prompt came from John's ear. He was a little curious about what the magic blood was, so he clicked on it to have a look. Magic blood. After taking it, the magic power will be improved. Note, mixing with other blood may have unexpected effects. Mixed use. John was lost in thought. This other blood should refer to the blood of magical creatures. This John does have one, and the dragon blood on his body has not been used up yet. It's just that this thing looks a little dangerous. If I use it, it won't cause other effects, right? I don't want to be invited by the Ministry of Magic to drink tea because I drink some messy things at home. It doesn't matter, let's go home first. It has been almost a year since he left home, and John is also a little homesick. The train roared into King's Cross Station, and John got off the train. On platform 9 3/4, a wizened old guard stood guard at the partition wall, allowing only 2 or 3 people to pass at a time. This is to prevent a large number of people from walking out of the solid wall at the same time, which is too eye-catching. John was constantly being greeted, mostly Slytherins and Gryffindors. Slytherin was honored because of John, while Gryffindor felt that the old hat of the Sorting Hat was definitely broken. He was also treated the same as Harry, who was constantly being squeezed by and greeted at the same time. Then I'll go first. After greeting the 3 little ones, John was about to leave, and bumped towards the partition wall, and John returned to the Muggle world. John walked towards his parents. Mr. and Mrs. Wick had been waiting for a long time, and there were little red-haired lowly Ginny and Mrs. Weasley not far from them. As for how John knew their identities, because after Harry came out, that little lowly kept screaming, which made John deeply understand what the power of a fangirl is. "You must be John Wick, right?" Mrs. Weasley also came to John under the introduction of Ron, and the parents of both sides had a friendly meeting. The Grangers also joined in, except for the Dursleys, because they didn't want anything to do with wizards. Dudley, who was behind Dursley, saw John come out with a terrified expression on his face. John gave him a kind smile, and pointed to Harry, indicating that he was the one he was covering. If Harry had a bad day, he wouldn't mind reliving the past with Dudley. Summer holidays are always full of joy. At this point, Watson Wick felt that his son seemed out of place with Xia Tian, and had been staying in the basement. "John, you have been in wizarding school for so long, haven't you learned any magic?" Watson Wick asked number 11 questions without giving up. John looked at his old father helplessly and said, "As I said, little wizards are not allowed to use magic in the Muggle world." Seeing that his father still didn't give up, John said viciously, "Do you want to see your son sent to Azkaban?" Watson smiled awkwardly, and muttered, "It's not so serious, isn't there a law on the protection of minors in the wizarding world?" John just gave him a look, and if he came to the basement to disturb him again, don't blame himself for secretly pouring some sleep potion on his father. He was holding a tube of bright red blood-like reagent in his hand at the moment, and from time to time, patterns like fire dragons flowed across it. Magic blood, he is working on how to use it, but while he was researching, he extended his claws to the wand. Chapter 35 Zongsi and Harry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zongsi, a tool used by the Ministry of Magic to monitor underage wizards, similar to a monitoring system strapped to the body. Before leaving school, Hogwarts will send a letter to the little wizards to warn them not to use magic outside the school. This thing is as mysterious as the Hogwarts admission list, but John wants to try to see if he can tear it apart. That way he doesn't have to worry about being warned about using magic. It might not be possible for other people to do it, but John is a person with alchemy. Although the level is not high, the Zongsi used by the little wizard is not too delicate, and it can be used for him to practice. Going ahead, John researched the wand. Zongsi is a monitoring method or magic A notice letter received by Hogwarts students when they leave school is actually used to extend the time limit of Zongsi, similar to a renewal fee. It must be renewed every year. It can be seen that the magic content in trace silk is not high. Moreover, the effect of Zongsi is not so good. It mainly monitors the place where the magic happens. As long as there are adult wizards around, it will not be counted on the students. Like in a pureblood family, it is not strange for little wizards to use magic, and the Ministry of Magic will not come to their door. In John's view, this is more like a means of restricting Muggle wizards. Doesn't this make it clear that Muggle-born wizards should just sit around and do nothing? John was a little annoyed. He admitted that no matter where there are privileged births, it is normal for pureblood families to have advantages over Muggles, but I was very upset when I was targeted like this. After his research, he finally succeeded in taking out something similar to a transparent silver thread from the wand. Gently pulling it out with silver tweezers and putting it into the reagent tube, John took out another wand. This is a wand he made using materials obtained in the Forbidden Forest. It looks similar in appearance, but it is actually not as fine as Ollivander's, cherry and unicorn hair, 11 inches. He was going to use it as a spare wand. It's safe now. Taking out the magic blood, John shook it and prepared to take it. This thing was originally silver, but it turned red after adding dragon blood. He opened the lid, and there was no smell inside. John frowned and said to himself, this thing should not taste like orange juice. After thinking about drinking it sooner or later, John closed his eyes and drank it. The magic blood entered the body along the throat, feeling like drinking a bottle of potion. His body started to heat up, and he covered his throat with his hand. His face turned red, and his expression was extremely painful. The reagent slipped from the hand and fell to the ground and shattered. Watson Wake, who was about to come in for number 12 inquiries, heard the movement and walked in. God, John, what's wrong with you? Watson rushed over and was burned as soon as he touched John's body. He saw John look pained and tried to cool him down. With John as the center, a wave of magic power spreads around. Everything in the basement was floating. Get out, get out. John's remaining rationality told him he couldn't let Watson stay here, and he waved his hand, obviously did not use the wand, but let Watson float and fly out. John! Lock the door and don't come in. John's skin was red all over, and the entire basement was messed up by his magical fluctuations. The Wicks can only worry outside. The magic power is improving. With a clear perception of his own body, John's pain gradually subsided. There are some little wizards who will cause magic to go berserk when they are young, and John has never encountered this situation. However, he felt that he was in a state of magic power runaway now, and John in this state felt that he was a god walking in the world. Without a wand, he can control everything with just a thought. Under his control, the surrounding things are constantly changing, sometimes turning into a kitten, sometimes turning into a puppy. The owl flew over the roof, which would have been a chair. He tried his best to control himself, but the fluctuation of magic power continued. The grass outside the house was growing, and the apple trees grew huge fruits. Stop! John hammered the floor with both hands, roaring like a trapped animal. The basement gradually returned to calm. Everything floating in the basement fell heavily, and John lay gasping for breath. Ding, the magic blood is over. Acquire fire dragon characteristic blessing, swallow fire, deterrence, hardening, dragon language. Fire swallowing, increased affinity for fire attribute magic, increased resistance to fire attribute magic. Deterrence, increased deterrence against lower creatures. Hardening, increased hit resistance. Dragon language, learn the language of dragons. John's body regained control, and he seemed to be suffering from a severe fever. The clothes on my body were wrung out so that water could come out. Supporting his body and releasing the cleansing spell for himself, John cursed secretly with lingering fear. The system didn't say this process was so difficult. If I had known that he would not use it at home, it would be fine now. The basement is ruined. Although the process is difficult, the rewards are huge, not to mention the blessings of the 4 fire dragon characteristics obtained, but the increase in magic power is also extremely impressive. Magic power, level 3, 635 out of 1500. 342424333. 74111, blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision, Shuabat 2.0, pilot, long distance running, sword dance, night devil, troll buster, night, fire swallowing, deterrence, hardening, dragon language. In addition to the blessing, the magic power has skyrocketed by 500 experience, and the 2 fire attribute spells have also been upgraded. John speculates that this is caused by the existence of fire-eating beings. In addition, there is a change in the transformation spell. The transfiguration charm doesn't have an upgrade, but it does have a dragon form option, but after John clicked on it, it turned out to be a gray color. It should be possible to wait until the level of the transfiguration spell is improved. The superordinate of the transfiguration charm is the animagus, a magic that transforms people into animals. There are currently 7 known legal animagus, including Professor McGonagall, the Dean of Gryffindor. It is estimated that after the transformation spell reaches level 4, the transformation of animagus may be possible. It is very difficult to upgrade the transformation spell. At least John has not seen the transformation spell for a long time. After reaching level 2, there are still 4 random points earned in the first grade. John took a look at his skills and clicked on runes and alchemy respectively. After the 2 skills are upgraded, they turn gray, and the next upgrade can only be done after the accumulation is enough. Click Acclimacy again, and the rest. John is going to stay to prevent problems before they happen. The system is not a panacea. Clean the basement, which was a matter of moving a wand. John walked out under the worried gaze of his parents, and naturally he was inevitably checked by his parents like a rag doll, preventing the father from going to check whether the little brother is still doing anything. John signaled them not to worry. Under John's repeated promise that there would be no next time, the husband and wife gave up the idea of going to the hospital for an examination. Fortunately, the trail was removed, otherwise the news would have been caught up by the Ministry of Magic. Just when John was very fortunate, he saw an owl flying through the window and heading towards another house. If John remembers correctly, it appears to be number 4 Privet Drive. Harry, who had not been back for a few days, made the Dursleys no longer dare to dictate to him through the method Hagrid taught him. He abides by the school's rules and regulations and does not use magic. To scare people is just to take out the wand for a moment. But just like that, he actually received a warning. Letter from the Ministry of Magic. He was a little confused. Could it be okay to scare people with a magic wand? As the instigator of everything, John remembered that it seemed that Harry's wand was also equipped with traces. I am fine, but let Harry take the blame. John secretly said sorry. It is really people sitting at home. The pot comes from the sky. Chapter 36. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After drinking the magic blood, John felt that the whole world became clear. It was as if one by one magical elements flashed before his eyes from time to time. Although he didn't see the real thing, he could feel its existence. The effect of magic blood is greater than I thought. John took out his wand and cast a little spell. The gushing flames surrounded the basement. John was startled, and it took him a long time to control it. A flame spell casts Fiend Fire effect. Level 4 flames are so horrifying, but level 4 Fiend Fire would be overwhelming. He had the urge to upgrade Fiend Fire, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. Level 3 magic control. Level 4 flames are a bit uncontrollable. If you control Fiend Fire, you might burn the house down. There are a lot of things missing in the basement now, and the chair that was turned into an owl has been taken out by Watson as a decoration. When Basil saw such a lifelike owl, he thought John kept other owls in the basement. John tried to change these items changed by the magic power, but they all failed. Magic rage has inspired my full potential. The animals are just like the real thing except they can't move. John felt that if he could maintain this state, even Voldemort himself could fight. Unfortunately, this state of affairs cannot be met. In the magic world, there is a creature called Moran, which is derived from a little wizard who ran away with magic power. This kind of thing is extremely dangerous. A wizard who is born silently is called a silent person, and silent people generally don't live long. I heard that there used to be an obscurity riot in New York before, and the incident caused almost exposed the entire magic world. Fortunately, it was resolved in the end. John needs to control every time he uses the magic blood, otherwise he may become silent. At that time, the gain outweighs the loss. After John upgraded alchemy to level 2, he became more comfortable with alchemy, especially with the help of the Philosopher's Stone. Taking out one of the 9 refined badges, John carefully engraved runes on it. Thura says that it's a reflective rune with a little added luck. After the drawing was completed, a layer of light flashed on the badge, and it quickly returned to normal. Using the Sorcerer's Stone plus Dragon's Blood as ink for depicting the effect is very good. Nodding in satisfaction, John put the badge on his chest. The galaxy-like badge added 3 points of mystery to him, and he planned to keep the remaining 8 badges to depict other runes. "John, someone is looking for you." Mrs. Wick's gentle voice sounded, and John was surprised to hear it. Someone else came to look for him. Could it be Harry? The wand tapped on the table, and the things placed on it returned to the suitcase in an orderly manner. After finishing everything, John walked out of the basement. He thought it was Harry, or some former classmates or something. Unexpectedly, when he came up, he saw the old man in a lavender wizard robe with a half-moon lens on his crooked nose. Dumbledore. Dumbledore was very unassuming. He visited the house and expressed some emotion from time to time, especially when he saw the decorative owl. Dumbledore's eyes flashed with wisdom. "Professor Dumbledore." John's heart tightened and he ran over in a hurry. Dumbledore saw his cautious appearance and smiled. "Minerva is right, you are very talented in transfiguration, John." Hearing this, John was a little embarrassed to be caught by his pigtails. The attainment of this transfiguration even surprised Dumbledore. He used to be a professor of transfiguration, so he could naturally see that it surpassed most people's attainments. From his point of view, this owl could at least put many aurors to shame. With an inquiring look in his eyes, Dumbledore was curious how John did it. Harry received a warning letter from the Ministry of Magic's prohibition of misuse of magic office a few days ago, and he was extremely wronged. Blinking, Dumbledore thought of Harry receiving the warning letter. John pretended not to know anything, but still couldn't help but put his wand back nervously. Dumbledore whispered, "Don't be nervous, some clever wizards always have special methods. Harry will be fine, just a small warning." As he spoke, he gestured with 2 fingers to see how small it was. This made John breathe a sigh of relief, thinking that the name of the Savior should allow Harry to gain privileges. It seems that Dumbledore came here because of the noise he made a few days ago, and John invited Dumbledore to sit down. Mrs. Wick brought a cup of tea, and some baked cookies. "Excellent workmanship." Dumbledore took a bite of the cookie and was immediately full of praise. Seeing the old man eating happily, Mrs. Wick also showed a happy look. After chatting for a while, Dumbledore also got to the point. "John, the Philosopher's Stone has been with you for a while." As soon as John heard it, he understood. This is to ask for the Philosopher's Stone. Although he was a bit reluctant, John nodded honestly and said, "Good Professor Dumbledore, I'll bring it right away." No, John." Seeing that he had misunderstood, Dumbledore waved his hand and said, "My old friend is not in a hurry. The Sorcerer's Stone has been declared destroyed to the outside world. You still have a holiday to own it." "Then this is?" John was puzzled, not for the Philosopher's Stone, but for what? Dumbledore smiled mysteriously. "My old friend heard that there is a young wizard who is very interested in alchemy and wants to meet him." Old friend? Nico Flamel. John stood up a little excitedly, and Dumbledore was not surprised to see him so excited. "That is the living legend of alchemy, the only person in the world who created the Philosopher's Stone." Thinking that his old friend was ready to face death, Dumbledore felt that he also wanted to leave a little story for the wizarding world. Well, a successor may be a good preacher. "John, if you have no other arrangements for your vacation, maybe we can take a trip abroad, of course, if your parents agree to it." Disagree? Impossible. John agreed almost without thinking. "If you want to ask who is the real master of alchemy in this world, it must be Nicole Flamel. John's magic sword hasn't been finished yet. How could he let go of this opportunity?" After discussing with his parents for a while, Watson passed easily, but Mrs. Wick was not so easy. When she heard that she was going abroad, this made Mrs. Wick worry. "Help me quickly. This is my wife." "That? I have to pay more." Finally, in the eye contact between John and Watson, John promised to buy Watson blowing super bubblegum and chocolate frog, plus asking Basil to deliver letters to friends for Watson and Tom to perform at parties. Mrs. Wick let go, but the requirement is that she must write a letter and send it home every week. "If you dare not write back, I will tell your uncles." This was Mrs. Wick's threat to John. Thinking of those uncles, John felt that this threat was too vicious. Mrs. Wick was a Slav, and her brothers were shirtless bear wrestlers in winter. When John was 5 years old, he went to his grandfather's house and saw his uncle subdue a brown bear. In order to make their nephew happy, they planned to take John to hunt in the mountains. If Mrs. Wick hadn't scolded him, John would probably be an experienced hunter by now. After making an appointment with Dumbledore, John went back to the basement to pack his things. In fact, there are not too many things, but the magic stone and materials must be carefully put away. After playing frisbee throwing with Tom, John sees Dumbledore in a different outfit. On a whim, Dumbledore wanted to try a Muggle cruise. What else can John do? It seems that the Portkey going abroad can only be realized next time. Chapter 37 Beauxbatons and the Exchange Students. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Crossing the English Channel, the cruise ship arrives in France from England, Pyrenees. This is the natural border between France and Spain, and Beauxbatons Castle surrounded by mountainous landscapes is located in it, using magic to build a paradise. If you ask British wizards which is the best wizarding school in the world, they will tell you Hogwarts without hesitation. If you ask a French wizard, they'll tell you that the Englishman is farting, and that Beauxbatons is the best school for wizardry. The magnificent and romantic castle is the favorite French palace of the French, and the magically constructed gardens and fountains surround the school. The breeze blows, and there may be nymphs singing in the garden. Professor, why are we here? John was a little depressed, and Dumbledore said to take him to Mtlnovel. As a result, when he arrived, he first went to the Paris Opera House to listen to a touching opera with John, and then went to the ladies' hat shop to buy himself a favorite lady's hat. This is their third stop in France, Beauxbatons Castle, which is also a magic school in France. Dumbledore smiled at John and said, John, it is true that the pursuit of knowledge cannot be stopped, but we are on vacation now. Walking into the gate of Beauxbatons School, in the garden, the tall women seemed to be the female version of Hagrid. Dumbledore. Ola Maxim, the current principal of Beauxbatons, she had an olive face, large dark, watery eyes, and her hair was combed back. She was wrapped from head to toe in black satin, and adorned with rich opals. Like a big dame, she held out her hand, and Dumbledore went up to kiss the back of it very naturally. Despite her bulk, her manners are graceful. Ms. Maxim, thank you very much for allowing my students to come here. Dumbledore was tall enough, but still not enough to look in front of Ms. Maxim. Hearing his words, Ms. Maxim looked down at John over there. She spoke English, but with a French accent. Dumbledore, Mtlnovel is the school director of Beauxbatons, and I will not refuse his request. Dumbledore smiled, and the two seemed to be playing charades. John was bewildered. At this time, Ms. Maxim came to John. She looked at John's decent little suit with a little satisfaction in her eyes. Now, you may have to make some changes. She took out her wand and tapped lightly on John. John noticed the change and looked down. His clothes had changed. The suit turned into a light blue robe, and on the chest, there was a pattern of 2 golden wands crossed, with 3 stars emerging from each. One click to change clothes. John was a little dazed. Dumbledore cleared his throat, bringing John back from his stupor. John Wick, from now on, you will spend this holiday at Beauxbatons as a temporary Hogwarts exchange student. This old man, who likes to eat sweets so much that he is tired of cockroach piles, has a scheming smile on his face. Only then did John know that he had been cheated by the old bee. It was agreed to find Mtlnovel, but in the end he became an exchange student. Oops, I'm a stand-in. John yelled in his heart that it was not good. Could it be that Dumbledore found himself learning black magic and wanted to expel himself from Hogwarts? Do you want to be so desperate? He has subconsciously forgotten the word temporary mentioned by Dumbledore, and now he is panicked. Professor, if you are dissatisfied with what I did, please speak up. John wanted to cry but had no tears. Dumbledore blinked, touched John's shoulder, and said mysteriously, John, every magic school is full of mysteries. You can discover and find them through your observant eyes, and you can also enjoy Beauxbatons gardens and fountain. My old friend loved it. These words seemed to imply something about John. Dumbledore whispered, don't worry, Hogwarts will not expel the little wizard because of his curiosity about magic. Well, these words let John finally not have to worry about being fired. He was brought into Beauxbatons by Ms. Maxim, where he will have a 2-month exchange student career. It is impossible for Ms. Maxim to personally lead a student, even if this student is sent by the greatest wizard of this century, Dumbledore. It just so happens that there is a student in the school who needs to be in the school temporarily. John got help from a girl, her name was Fleur Delacour, and she was a beautiful girl. 3 years older than John, the slim Furong is not as beautiful as a mortal, she has a slender figure, with an elegant aura, she walks as if floating on the ground, and her whole body seems to emit a faint silver light, she has waist-length silver hair, big blue eyes, and perfect white teeth. When she walked in front of John, John came back to his senses, he searched around in his mind, and felt that there was only one word that could be used to describe this girl. It's really Brin Bling, it's like adding Duong. He spoke very sincerely, but Fu Rong was dumbfounded. What is called Brin Brin is the same as what is called Duong. If she knew the classic saying of Jack Cheng, the developer of the Furniture City field, she might know that it was the same as adding special effects to praise her beauty. In fact, John was also very curious, because he really saw a silver light surrounding Fleur. This girl seems to have some other kind of blood, just like his fire dragon blood. Hello, my name is John Wick. You can call me John. John stretched out his hand, and Fleur also had a good impression of this good-looking boy. With a light grip of the little hand, it will be separated with one touch. John didn't feel too much emotion, he was staring curiously at the 12 huge winged horses. This is a rune horse, raised by Ms. Maxim. Fleur introduced it to John. John stared at the 12 horses, but there was only one thought in his mind. We have to find a way to get some materials from these horses. As soon as he entered school, John set his sights on other people's horses. If Ms. Maxim knew that she had lured wolves into the house, even if Nicole Flamel came over in person, she would not let this guy into the school. John was very concerned about Dumbledore's words, and his mind moved. Hogwarts has a room of requirement, and as Beauxbatons, who exists opposite to it, the probability of not having such a place is extremely low, and Nicole Flamel, as the school manager of Beauxbatons, was a former student of the school. Does John remember Dumbledore saying that he took himself to find Nicole Flamel? He didn't think Dumbledore would break his promise. Either Nicole Flamel was in Beauxbatons, or there was something related to Nicole Flamel here. No matter which one, as a master of alchemy, if you can get or see it, you will definitely benefit a lot. Thinking of this, John cheered up. Isn't it just another place to continue the night tour? It's not like I haven't done it before. So he found Fu Rong shyly, and asked with a harmless smile, do you know if there is a restricted book area or something like that here? Fu Rong was even more confused about the brain circuit of this little wizard from England. Restricted section, you ask me? This was Beauxbatons, not Hogwarts, and they weren't going to let the restricted section hang out there. So John got the answer he expected, yes, but don't even think about it. Well, John had no choice but to be a stranger in a foreign land alone. At night, he put on a level 4 disillusionment spell and started a night tour in Beauxbatons. I heard that there were rumors of Beauxbaton being haunted during that time, and there was always a wandering footstep in the middle of the night, but no one was there. Even the professor himself came and found nothing unusual. Someone once saw a ghost lying on the ground looking for something near the fountain of the LeMay couple. He was as pale as a vampire who had been hanged upside down for 3 days. The Beauxbaton student was so frightened that he hid in the dormitory for several days, filling the window with garlic. Chapter 38 Learning and Making. You are listening at novelfull.audio. John, do you know that the feathers of the rune horse have been shedding a lot recently? Ms. Maxim is very sad recently. Something happened to her rune horse. I don't know if it's because of competition for a spouse or depression, but the rune horse is losing its hair like crazy. It wasn't obvious at first, but now the rune horse's wings and mane are bald. Not even single malt whiskey could cheer up the rune horse. Fleur set suspicious eyes on John, who has behaved well since his arrival, although there was no evidence. The woman's intuition told her that John Wick had something to do with it. Run horses? You mean those giant horses? John looked surprised, and said, I don't know either. I've been studying books about alchemy recently. With that said, John also took out his own book list. The above are all documents about alchemy. As a magic school with a history of 700 years, there are no less records than Hogwarts. Even because of Nicole Flamel, the master of alchemy, there are a lot of alchemy literature here, which feels more than Hogwarts. Of course, the book written by Nicole Flamel is indispensable, and the content in it has benefited John a lot. Is it? Fu Rome was a little hesitant. When she saw the book list, she felt that John was fine, but she always felt that it was weird. Under dubious circumstances, Fu Rong left, and shortly after she left, John waited for nearly an hour before coming out of the library. He put the books back one by one and rubbed his tired temples. He did not use Shuabat 2.0, because this thing needs to be used when it is more needed. For example, when I entered Nicole Flamel's alchemy room, yes, Nico Flamel's alchemy room, according to the clues provided by Dumbledore, John used the most primitive method near the Fountain of the Lemmes for several nights. Finally, the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets was found at the mouth of the fountain. It was an alchemy room, which stored a large number of notes and materials related to alchemy. One of the diary-like items let him know that the owner of this room was the famous Nicole Flamel. This is the room Nicole Flamel left when he was studying in Beauxbatons, and all the notes in it were written by him. John hungrily in this treasury-like room, young Nicole Flamel, although there are some areas of childishness, but just right for some young wizards just dabbling in alchemy. Apart from the notes, the biggest surprise is the diary. John took out a quill, filled the nib with ink, and wrote in the diary. Dear Nico, I have some questions about alchemy that I don't quite understand. I hope you can explain it to me. After writing such a line, John continued to write about the difficulties he encountered. After writing, it was as if an invisible pen was writing under that line of handwriting. The beautiful fonts appeared out of nowhere on the diary. Of course, dear John, you may find the answer to your question in the notes in the 7th book from the left on the 3rd row of the bookshelf. I hope it can help you. After seeing the handwriting, John quickly got up and went to the said bookshelf. In the 7th notebook from the left on the 3rd line, he found notes on how to sublimate a substance. This made John happy, and he did not forget to write back his thanks in his diary. Thank you Nico, you did me a great favor. You are welcome. The writing appeared on the diary, which was John's most surprising discovery, an extremely miraculous diary, which can also be called Nico's Encyclopedia. This is a book made by Nicole Flamel, which records his alchemy experience, and it is equivalent to a smart index on the bookshelf. This kind of thing that can maintain the emotional character of the original owner is actually not without it, similar to the portraits on the walls of Hogwarts. They may not have too many functions, but they can retain some of the character and wisdom that belong to the portrait owner, and Nico's encyclopedia is far beyond the existence of portraits, and John even thinks that Nicole Flamel lives in it, but reason told him it was impossible. With this book, and a room full of them, John's alchemy at Beauxbatons advanced by leaps and bounds. He even used the feathers of the rune horse to create a pair of flying shoes, which were slightly slower than the broomstick but greatly increased in agility. He also successfully added a permanent directional magic to the badges. No matter where they are, these 9 badges will point to other badges, like the stars guarding the moon, pointing the way to each other. John intends to remove his own badge and give the remaining 8 to others, to become the next Dumbledore. He cannot fight alone, even Dumbledore is not fighting alone. He still has the Order of the Phoenix, and the huge Hogwarts behind him and Hogwarts connections that occupy half of the country. John needs a relationship to consolidate his status, and the maintenance of the relationship needs the help of badges. He wants to set up a society, or have a team that can obey his orders. He already has a candidate for one of the badges, connections. This is the most scarce thing for John at present. He was born in a Muggle family. He does not have the unique blood family tree of a pure-blood family, nor does he have the nepotism of parents and classmates of a half-blood wizard family. All he can do is try to surround himself with strong people. This strong person can be a genius wizard, or the second generation of a family with a deep background, or have the character of never betraying a friend. John stayed in the alchemy room until dawn, and he returned to the dormitory to sleep for 2 hours before dawn. It's a holiday, and no one cares if he's being lazy. Some people even felt that after the black-haired boy was missing, the surroundings always felt a little quieter. John, maybe we can go and see. It's the Quidditch World Cup group stage. After getting along for a month, Fu Rong became more and more familiar with John. Although he was 3 years older than John, Fleur didn't think this black-haired boy was a child. John's every move is the same as that of her peers, and John even behaves more maturely than those boys in the same grade. What about the Quidditch World Cup group match? You can go and see it. John flicked his wand, and the books on the table flew back to the shelf automatically. He didn't expect Fleur to be a Quidditch fan, which is not surprising. After all, who doesn't like Quidditch? The Quidditch World Cup is held every 4 years, and within 12 months after the end of the last final, any country can form a team to sign up. The last one was in 1990, when John was not enrolled yet. There are still 2 years to go until the next session, and the group stage is already in full swing. You said the group stage is in Bulgaria, so how do we get there? After John finished speaking, he saw Fleur smiling pretty. I know of a place that has a portkey that will take us to Bulgaria for just 3 galleons. It has to be said that wizards are much more convenient than muggles in terms of travel. With only one portkey, the whole family can travel around the world in a short time. John was also curious about the portkey, and upon hearing this, he immediately agreed. Fleur cheered, and her long silver hair hit John's cheek. Like a happy little girl, she said excitedly, I've wanted to try traveling without an adult's company for a long time. The lively look of this girl made John think that maybe he could become good friends with Gryffindor students. The two didn't need to bring anything, and came to the hiding place in Paris through Flofans. The hidden equivalent of Diagon Alley is the wizarding shopping district, led by Fu Rong. They turned east and west, and finally found the door key in an alley at the corner of a square in the hiding place. The owner of the portkey was a man in a bucket hat and a scruffy brown trench coat. He was unshaven and unkempt, and he burped from time to time. The strong smell of alcohol made one wonder that he had fallen into a wine barrel and slept all night. John quietly approached Fu Rong and asked in a low voice, Are you sure he is reliable and won't throw us into the deep mountains and old forests? Fu Rong was also a little uncertain. She said with a guilty conscience, Probably, maybe, should, can't it? Chapter 39 The Portkey and the Hungarian Horntail. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The drunkard hiccuped the two of them, stretched out his hand and hung his dead fish eyes and said, 3 Garin, I will keep you safe. Thinking that it was all coming, John and the two of them grabbed the leather shoes that looked like they had just been taken off after paying. The two held hands so as not to get separated. After John touched the portkey, he felt as if there was a hook in his navel, and he jerked forward with irresistible momentum. He lifted his feet off the ground and flew up. After his eyes could see clearly, he and Fu Rong were already in free fall. The two fell heavily. John rubbed his sore waist, stood up, looked around, and said, This doesn't look like a place where Quidditch will be held. I must kill that damn liar. Fu Rong's pretty face also turned black at this time. It was an unstable portkey. Send them directly to an unknown forest. John had a headache, because the portkey was gone, which meant that they were thrown into the deep mountains and forests, and they might be desolate. Hopefully we can find someone to ask directions. When you come here, you can't go back. It can't be done. I need to rest for a while. Fu Rong sat on the ground without any ladle-like image. John stopped, and rows of sweat appeared on his forehead. They walked in this forest for at least 3 hours, but during these 3 hours there were not many people, not even animals. John misses his flying boots very much now. If he knew that he would fall into such a ghost place, he would bring them here. Show me the way, point me. His wand was pointing north, and John glanced in the direction. So far they were looking good. It's a pity that I didn't learn to apparate, otherwise I wouldn't have to walk on my legs. John also sat down to rest for a while. He picked some harmless fruits from the tree and handed them to Fu Rong. Fu Rong buried her head in her legs and said in a muffled voice, I'm sorry John, I shouldn't have let you come here. Thinking that she might not be able to get out, Fu Rong couldn't hold back at this moment. As the older party, she felt less responsible than John. Hearing her words, John rubbed the fruit into his mouth and took a bite. The sour taste made people almost couldn't help spitting it out, but after thinking that this might be the only food, he swallowed it again. It's okay, we'll be fine, trust me. John cheered up Fleur, and Fleur looked at that pretty face, inexplicably feeling a sense of security enough to trust. She has a quarter of Vila blood in her body, and also has some Vila abilities. Her outstanding beauty is one of them, and she has the ability to make men obsessed. Because of this ability, she is not popular among girls, but she has arrogance and disdain to argue with these people, and she doesn't like boys because they will be attracted. This resulted in her having few friends at school. When she saw John at school, she didn't have any intention of making friends. I just think this boy is a bit interesting. He will not be attracted to himself like other boys and become flattering. On the contrary, in getting along, I am the one who is attracted. This attraction has nothing to do with the love between men and women, but just a kind of trust, similar to a leader who can't help but get close. He restores confidence just by being there. Fleur looked at John. Nodded and said, I trust you, John. John smiled and handed another fruit to Fu Rong. Fu Rong caught it unprepared and bit down, the price of which was that her whole face was squeezed into a ball with soreness. John. I didn't do anything, you see I ate too. John looked innocent, and Fleur was so angry that he wanted to smash the fruit on his head. Holding up the fruit, she thought for a while, wouldn't it be worse if she didn't eat and starve to death here? She took a bite of the fruit viciously, as if it was John. It was getting dark, and John decided to find a place to rest first. He built a bonfire, and the two sat around it. There are no animals in such a big forest, even if there are magical creatures. John curled his lips and complained, and Fu Rong rolled his eyes at him and said, this kind of wild magical creatures are very dangerous. Judging from the territorial awareness of magical creatures, there may be a powerful existence here that prevents other creatures from approaching. Oh, John felt right, magical creatures also have a sense of territory. If foreign creatures break into the territory, it is usually a fierce battle. It's just that they've been gone for so long. Even if they were there, they should have appeared long ago. It hasn't appeared in such a long time. Could it be that the magical creature still came out at night? As he thought this way, there was movement in the surrounding jungle. Rustle. What's there? Fu Rong was a little nervous. The two had already drawn out their wands at the same time, and John glanced at his empty pockets. When you go back, you must use the no-trace stretching curse. The untraceable stretching curse is a very practical spell, similar to the common space rings in novels. It is possible to enlarge the interior of a space, and the appearance may not change, but the interior can become an extremely wide space. John hadn't learned the spell yet, otherwise he wouldn't have taken a wand with him when he went out. The two looked nervously at the position transmitted by the direction, and John was ready to be smashed to pieces by something that came out suddenly. The sound is getting closer. John has fused the fire dragon blood, so his body has also been strengthened. His senses became more acute. He heard gasps and heavy footsteps. A person? John thought about it. Judging from the voice, it should be a person. Moreover, this person was injured, so he should be on the run. The wand in his hand didn't slack in the slightest, on the contrary, it was already raised. Compared with magical creatures, encountering people in the wild may be more dangerous. Finally, under the gaze of the two, a person appeared in the bushes in front of them. Stop! Fu Rong shouted nervously. It was a boy who looked about the same age as John, wearing a blood-colored robe, which should be a school uniform. His face was so pale that Fleur thought it was a vampire at first glance, with black hair and a high nose bridge. If it weren't for the golden eyes faintly revealed and the messy hair covering the left eye, Fu Rong's attack might have gone out. The visitor obviously didn't expect to be two wizards who looked like students. He thought that those who dared to light a bonfire in this place were either aurors or outlaws. Run! The boy shouted, and a flame fell from the sky, directly igniting the bushes around him. Fu Rong looked in horror, and a black Hungarian tree peak in the sky opened its mouth and breathed out a mouthful of dragon breath. Sneak attack, offend, death. John looked at the Hungarian tree peak in disbelief, and he seemed to hear the other party talking. Suddenly remembering that he had the blessing of dragon language, he waved his magic wand and used the floating spell to pull the wizard out of the flames. Although this behavior saved a life, it also made Hungarian tree peak notice John. Let's run. Fu Rong finally understood why there were no other creatures around. The Hungarian tree peak is the fiercest fire dragon. With its existence, no other creatures dare to appear around it. John immediately turned around and flung his arms away, and Hungarian Shufeng's angry words came from behind him one after another. Wizard, sleeping, sneak attack, doesn't talk about martial arts, but hurts. Hearing what Hungarian tree peak said, John looked at the wizard who was also fleeing with a strange expression. This kid is brave enough to sneak attack while Hungarian tree peak is sleeping, and what's wrong with you? You even hit it in the buttocks. No wonder Hungarian Shufeng was so angry. If someone robbed his house while he was sleeping, he would at least guarantee that it would not be so painful to let the other party go. Chapter 40 The Dragon Whisperer and Edgar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It chases, he runs, and he can't escape with his wings, John. An acceleration. Someone once said that when you meet a brown bear, you don't need to run faster than the brown bear, you just need to run faster than the people in your company. Obviously, among the three fellow wizards, John is the youngest, but has the best physique. He easily surpassed the blood-robed wizard. The blood-robed wizard who was at the back gritted his teeth, and the Hungarian Horntail opened its teeth and claws. After opening its mouth, a huge fireball flew out of the Hungarian Horntail's mouth. The stump is flying. The blood-robed wizard swung his wand, pulling the stump to block the fireball before it landed on him. The fireball hit the tree stump and instantly turned it into charcoal, and the only gap left allowed him to escape. He turned and stopped, looking fierce. Thousands of bullets, a pungno. The gravel on the ground flew up and hit the Hungarian Horntail, which made the Hungarian Horntail even more irritated. These attacks did not hurt it, but it made it very irritable. Seeing that his attack had no effect, the blood-robed wizard launched again unwillingly. It's just that this time, before he could make a move, he was smashed by a boulder picked up by the tail of the Hungarian Horntail. John turned his head to look. The blood-robed wizard was really just. Fu Rong accidentally fell down while running. She felt a vibration on the ground, and when she turned her head, she saw a boulder rolling over. Bones in pieces, expulso. The white light hit the boulder and shattered it, sending the flying stone across Fleur's cheek. John's expression changed after he shot, and the Hungarian Horntail had swooped down. The blood-robed wizard was still attacking, but the scales of the Hungarian Horntail were too hard to break. Seeing the Hungarian Horntail rushing down, the blood-robed wizard could only avoid it. Armor protection, protego. John stood in front of Fleur, and a shield emitting white light appeared in front of him. The Hungarian Horntail swept out with its spiked tail, and the trees it passed were easily cut off. Splinters and stones slammed into the shield, and John's feet sank into the ground. This is not over yet. The Hungarian Horntail roared to the sky under the moonlight. Its body is covered with black scales, exuding a black iron luster under the moonlight, and has a lizard-like appearance. It has yellow eyes, bronze horns, and a tail with spikes that are almost bronze in color. The 50-foot giant was wreaking havoc, breathing out dragon breath and covering all three of them. Dead, dead, dead. John kept releasing the iron armor charm to resist. Fleur got up and quickly adjusted, waving the wand in her hand. Flame freezing charm. The flames fell on their bodies and became less hot, and the three struggled to resist in the flames. Enough. A fierce light flashed across John's eyes, and he himself didn't notice that his pupils shrank into vertical pupils at this moment. After his words came out, the Hungarian Horntail was taken aback. Immediately after the continuous dragon breath stopped, the Hungarian Horntail stretched its neck and looked around. Fu Rong was still in shock. She gasped and asked, "What were you talking about just now?" John used the language of the dragon, which to others sounded like a voice imitating the roar of a fire dragon. The blood-robed wizard also stopped attacking, and he turned to look at John. John walked forward step by step. The Hungarian Horntail didn't associate the little guy in front of him with the sound just now. "We have no intention of offending." John spoke the dragon language again. Now the Hungarian Horntail finally noticed him, surprise in the big yellow lantern-like eyes. "It's you. How do you know the language of dragons?" The Hungarian Horntail looked down at John, and John took a deep breath. His eyes turned into the vertical pupils of a fire dragon, exuding waves of terrifying coercion from his body. "My name is John Wick. I have strayed into this place and have no intention of offending you." John communicated with the Hungarian Horntail, and in order to show sincerity, John lowered his wand. "You are the Dragon Whisperer." The anger on the Hungarian Horntail gradually dissipated. This astonishing scene made the two people present not dare to take a breath. John nodded and said, "I don't know where this is. The Portkey I was riding in broke down and left here." Dragon Whisperer, this is Scandinavia, the Valley of Never Breathing. Valley of Never Breathing? John didn't hear the name of this place. Judging from the blood-robed wizard who appeared here, there should be a place with human activities nearby. This made John breathe a sigh of relief. He was afraid that he would not know where he was being sent, so he bowed to the Hungarian Horntail to apologize. "Fire Dragon, I hereby offer my apology, and I hope you forgive us for our recklessness." It's not so much us, it's better to say it belongs to the blood-robe wizard. but now the three of them are grasshoppers on the same rope, so John doesn't care about it for the time being. The Hungarian Horntail restrained its murderous aura, and lowered its proud head to John. Dear Dragon Whisperer, Amoham accepts your apology. The communication between one person and one dragon fell into Furong's eyes, and her pretty face showed an expression of disbelief. This is dragon language. Legend has it that the great wizard Merlin could communicate with fire dragons in dragon language, and after him, no one who could speak dragon language has ever been heard of. Fleur originally thought that John was an ordinary Hogwarts student, but now it seems that he is a descendant of Merlin. After all, Merlin also attended Hogwarts, so it might be possible. There was also something strange in the eyes of the blood-robed wizard. His golden eyes were fixed on John, and he unconsciously clenched his wand tightly in his hand. The dragon talker seemed to have an extraordinary status among the fire dragons. After knowing that John could speak dragon language, Amohan didn't launch any more attacks. Under John's rhetoric, Amohan finally forgave the revenge of being attacked. At the same time John also learned the whole story. Originally, Amohan stayed in the Valley of Never-Ending Breath, but this blood-robed wizard who looked like a vampire appeared, and he couldn't help but attack Amohan. You must know that even a dragon will have the most basic physiological needs. Whether it is a human or a dragon, this place is relatively fragile. This action relieved Amohan's sleepiness, and he chased and killed him for several hours. The Mohan left, and the crisis of the three was resolved. The blood-robed wizard hesitated for a while, then came to the two of them, and said in a low voice, "Thank you for your help." "Humph, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been involved." Fu Rong snorted coldly. The blood-robed wizard glanced at her and sneered, "I didn't ask you to participate." "You." Fu Rong was very angry at his attitude. "Okay, anyway, it's a good thing to see a living person." John comforted Fleur, and reached out to the blood-robed wizard. "John Wick, Hogwarts student. Hogwarts here." The blood-robed wizard was a little surprised, and reached out to hold it. "Heinrich Edgar, student of Durmstrang." "Durmstrang?" John was surprised for a while. He didn't expect to come here. "I've heard this place has a bad reputation because they're not friendly to mudbloods, and they're one of the few schools that accept the dark arts. More importantly, the Meguro Lord Grindelwald, who once dominated Europe, came from this school." John had heard from Malfoy that he had bragged about going to Durmstrang for school, but Mrs. Malfoy didn't want her son too far away. "I didn't expect that it would soon cross over to Europe." John was speechless. Whether the Dorkey seller dared to throw himself into the heaven or not. Fu Rong on the side was startled when she heard Edgar's name, and exclaimed, "Edgar, that black magic family." Not many families would use black magic as a label openly, but Edgar did so. Each of them is an extremely crazy person, and at the same time, they also like to pursue challenges from the strong, and Edgar once sent a letter of challenge to Grindelwald, and after being defeated by Grindelwald, he became Grindelwald's loyal subordinate. So Edgar is also known as the deputy of the strong, and only those who are strong enough can conquer Edgar and use it for him.